And so I had a contract to sign, and this was really strict. Like, this clinic worked with contracts. So basically, contract one, you were alone, you had no phone, you could only see your parents, and only on weekends. You could not get out of your room. And you had a bunch of objects, like things like in glass or such that could be dangerous. You didn't have them. And then contract two, you have your phone. On Wednesday and Saturday, you can see the rest of your family, but only on weekends too. Yeah, only on weekends too. And you can ask on, I think, like Tuesday and Thursday for your objects that have been taken from you. And then contract three, you can see everyone you want whenever. You have your phone all the time. And then contract four, you begin to have permissions to go outside of the clinic, and you have obviously all the other things. You have your phone, you can see anyone you want, blah blah blah. And so I went to my pre-admission meeting at this clinic with Louis Carrier. So he was basically the boss of the clinic, and he told me that he was going to be the one taking care of me. He made me look at a picture of several bodies with different BMI, and he asked me which body do you think I am, and I think I said I was like BMI 25 or something, when I think I was around like 13, between 13 or 11, I think. So I had a huge body dysmorphia. That's what that meant. And he was the first one to tell me, Norman, you are anorexic and you need help now. And so I got into this clinic, and the first thing they did was give me a lot of medication, a lot of pills. And honestly, like, my contract one, I have almost no memories of, because I was so I had so much medication and chemicals in my body that I literally was a walking zombie. One of the only thing I remember from like the beginning of my hospitalization was that, so from contract one, I just remember reading a lot and drawing a lot, but that's about it. I was sleeping most of the time because of the pills, honestly. But I do remember that one thing, when I got into contract 2, so I began to go outside, and I started walking like 6 hours per day. It was really bad. But the day I got in contract 2 was a Wednesday, so that meant I had my phone, and I called my sister, whom I had not talked to for like a month. And when she heard my voice, she started crying, and I started crying so bad. And like, I remember this so well. And it was one of the best moments in my life, I think. Yeah, it was so great to be able to talk to her again. Because my sister is such a huge part of my life. And even though sometimes we don't really understand each other or we don't get along, I think that the fact that she had anorexia before, even if it was very different from mine, it made it easier for her to understand me, and I felt understood. And that was so precious. And yeah, I was honestly happy to go into contract just to talk to her. And like, yeah, I made it a surprise, and she didn't know it was me. And yeah, it was so great. But yeah, then I started walking in the park a lot. And one day, Louis Carrier called me into his office, and he told me, it was right before lunch, I remember, and I was like, why is he calling me now? It doesn't make any sense. And he called me and he told me, Nolan, we are gonna put you on the feeding tube because you have lost a lot of weight and you really are in danger of dying anytime now. So I had a little tube in my nose, which, wow. Yeah. Sometimes I miss it. I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes I just really wish I was back on the feeding tube with such a tiny and skinny body, but like, I know I am romanticizing it, because I could not think. I was cold all the time. I kept losing my hair and it was getting really bad. I even cut them in the clinic because like it was horrible. They looked like absolute shit. I had so many things that told me that my body was absolutely really exhausted and that I needed to eat and stop exercising so much. So yeah, that was I went into contract 2 in the end of August, and then it kind of was the same routine every day. I wouldn't eat, I would get a feeding tube at night, I would go walking for at least like 3 hours in the park. After August comes September, in case you didn't know, and in September in France it is the back to school season. And so I was supposed to enter my last year of high school, which we call terminale in French. And obviously I was in the clinic, so I wasn't able to go to school, but I still did have some schooling in the clinic. I had a great math teacher. He was so good. But like I had like 2 hours a day of classes, grand maximum. So it was not enough. So that was really hard to accept for me, that I would probably have to redo my last year of high school. But I went along with it. And in December, I was going through a really, really tough time. I still had a tube. But I was just doing really bad mentally, and I attempted suicide. And so Louis Carrier said, you can't stay in my clinic, like your life is in danger. You need to go to the mental hospital. So I was transported to the mental hospital that was right next to the clinic, so it's called Le Vinatier. And it was literally the worst experience of my life. Worse than contract 1, worse than anything, because when I arrived, I was first put into a room where there was a bed frame, a mattress on the bed frame, and a toilet, and that was it. Nothing else. Because I was in crisis, and so they were like, we can't put anything that you could potentially kill yourself with. And I was alone for the whole of the day. I didn't eat anything, so when they brought me food, it was literally like the only moment where I could see people, but I still didn't allow myself to eat. And I still had the tube in my nose, but they didn't put like the feeding part of the tube, because you have the tube, but at night, for me, they plugged it to an alimentation kind of bag, and so it fed me through the tube. But the rest of the day, I wasn't plugged to the alimentation, if that makes any sense. So yeah, that was terrible. It was really horrible, and I was really on so much pills that I barely remember anything. But even though I can barely remember anything, I just remember that it was horrible. And after like, I think 2 or 3 days, I got out of this isolation room, I think they called it, and I got into a more normal room with other people. And yeah, it was really hard. I was eating almost nothing, so I spent my days walking around, drawing and reading, and that was pretty much it. And I had started to make myself throw up. Yeah, then it was obvious that I had to get back to the clinic, because on the eating disorder part, I was really doing bad, and I was feeling a bit better mentally, so they sent me back to the clinic. And so I got through the end of the year festivities, so for Christmas and New Year, and it was literally like the worst thing in the world because I was not eating anything. I was so underweight. Like, when I look back at pics of me in that December, I'm like, how? Like, how was I even on my feet walking? I do not understand how. But yeah, it was a terrible time for everyone. For me, for my family. My mom, when she speaks of it now, she's like, I hope I never see you like this again, because it was a fucking nightmare for everyone. And I agree, it was a nightmare for me too. So yeah, it was really bad. Then January came and February came, and in February I was again in a really bad state mentally, and I tried to kill myself again. And I was transferred to another mental health hospital, and this time I wasn't put into isolation. I was directly in a room and could get out with the other people. I still had a tube. In between, they had taken off the tube for Christmas and all that, because, you know, I had asked for it. But I had gotten it again in like around January or February. And I also, it's really interesting because around that time, I actually created an Instagram account that I have still to this day. I'm not posting anymore on it, but I still use it. And so I'll be putting like the posts that correspond to what I'm saying. But yeah, they put me back on the tube, I think in January. And then in February, I tried to kill myself and they transferred me. My time over there was really hard, but I met this one girl who told me that she had spent 5 fucking years in the clinic I was in. And that's when I had the eureka moment of, I do not want to be sick my whole life. I want to recover. And from then, actually, it's on the 4th of March, as I was turning 18, that I had this realization. And it changed everything for me, because I started eating, I started not exercising, and I was in such a better dynamics. I was finally taking what they were giving me to help me, instead of brushing it off and saying, no, I'm anorexic, I am going to be anorexic my whole life. And it was a great feeling, because it finally felt like I was in control of my life, and my future felt possible. And maybe I even wanted to live a little bit. So I was in really good dynamics. They sent me back to Saint-Vincent-de-Paul quite quick, without the tube. They took it off forever this time. I haven't had it ever since, so that's huge. That's huge. So I went back to the clinic. I was in another room again, and I got out quite quickly because I was doing really well and I really wanted to go back to school. So they let me go back to school. And in Terminal, you have this exam called le baccalauréat. And it's basically A levels. So it's this exam that you take, and it tells you if you can go to higher education, like university or college or whatever. And so I thought I wouldn't get the exam because I hadn't literally done my last high school year, but I did get it with a really good mention, which blew everyone's mind, including myself. And so I didn't have to redo the year, and I was so happy. And when I got out of the clinic, actually, I was good for like a month, I'd say, and then things started to go really south, and I started to binge a lot. So my anorexia started, because I was also purging myself and doing a lot of sports on the side. So it was bulimia and not hyperphagia. I remember going to the groceries shopping only for my binges, and like it was so bad. And I think that my biggest regret is that when I got out of the clinic, I was so done with everything that was related to anorexia or eating disorders that I said, no, I do not want to have a psychiatrist or a dietitian or a psychologist. Like, I said no to everything, and it was obvious I was not going to do well on my own. So yeah, I started really going into bulimia. I gained a lot of weight. Like, I don't know, I must have gained like 15 kilograms in the span of 2 or 3 months, which is insane. And so I started hating my body again, even more. But I had also learned that I couldn't go to university next year because I hadn't done like the things I needed to do to be accepted into university or college. So I had to take a gap year. And I said, because I really wanted to get out of this situation, I wanted to try something else. I said, okay, I am going to do an au pair year in Germany. And so I went. I didn't know an au pair, yeah, it wasn't, yeah, but I went to be an au pair in Germany, and it was such a great experience. Like, I learned so much, and I loved the kids so much. They were so kind, and even the parents, they were so supportive and so kind. But all throughout these 3 months that I was in Germany, the binging, the exercising, everything was getting worse. I was in this constant cycle of not eating, so binging, but because I binged, I'm gonna restrict, and then I'm gonna binge because I restricted, and it was endless. And I went running for an hour every morning. It was so bad. At this point, I was absolutely exhausted, and I told my family, my host family, that I needed to go back to France to get help. And it was honestly one of the hardest things I've done in my life, and I remember crying so hard when I got into the car to go back to France, because I loved this family so much, especially one of the kids. His name was Lucas, and we got along so well. Like, I had never wanted to have any children before I met him, and when I met him, I said, I want children, but I want them to be like him. And you have to know that I didn't have my period for a really long time because I was so on the way. So having kids wasn't even an option when I was in the worst of my anorexia. But then I recovered. I mean, physically, I recovered. And so I got my period back, and suddenly having children became an option. And I wanted them to be just like Lucas, because he was really truly the biggest light of my life when I was in Germany. But honestly, like, the trip in Germany was such a good experience. I loved it. If I wasn't sick, I would say it was the best time of my life. And I think even when being sick, it was the best time of my life. It was really great. It was really, truly great. And then, so I went back to France because I was really not doing well. And I came back to the clinic as an outpatient, because you have basically 2 types. There's actually 3, but you have inpatient, where you're at the clinic all the time. You have outpatient, which we call hôpital de jour. So basically day hospital, because you're there only during the day, not at night. Where you have like groups, you see dietitians, psychiatrists, psychologists, psychomotricians, psychoneurologists. There's a lot of things, and you have a lot of groups, and you have these meals that are therapeutical meals, and yeah. And then the third thing is night hospital, hôpital de nuit, where you can do what you want during the day, so generally studying or working, and at night you come to the clinic to have your meal, your dinner, and yeah. So I was in hôpital de jour, so outpatient there, I'm gonna call it. I think that's what it's called generally. And I started, so at this point, weight-wise, I was at my regular weight. I was around 54 kilograms, and that is the weight I think I should have. So it was really hard for me. I hated my body so much. And when I came back to France, I started to lose again a lot of weight, and I lost about around 6 to 8 kilograms. And so I was at like the finite being being underweight and being normal. I was at like a BMI of about 18.5, which I think is the limit for being underweight. And so it brought this new problematic that I hadn't experienced before of, am I thin enough to be helped? And to this day, like, I haven't lost the weight that I had then. So not the 54, but the one below it, at like right the limit. And it's so hard still to this day, because when I tell people I'm anorexic, they tell me, you don't look like you're anorexic. And I'm like, wow, thank you for your input. I really needed to hear that today. Yeah, that's something that's so hard in recovering from eating disorders, is that when you've been really underweight, people see you gain weight and they think you are entirely recovered when you are just weight restored, and mentally it's not okay. So that was really hard. I think that's one of the hardest things of recovering from an eating disorder, is the judgment of others telling you, you have gained weight, so you must be recovered. You eat cake, so you must be recovered. No, and people have this illusion that because I eat, I'm not anorexic. People have this illusion that anorexics eat nothing, but that is not true. We do eat. And some anorexic even eat normally, but it's a mental illness. It does not base on a body or on eating. It's all in your head, really. It's all in your head. And I wish people would understand that, but they don't. I'm getting really angry. Sorry. So yeah, I'm back in France. I'm doing outpatienting. And I've been planning this one trip that basically keeps me alive. Like, it's the only reason why I wake up in the morning. And so I'm going to go see Dodie and Sam Fender. So Dodie was the 12th? Dodie was the 12th of May 2022, and Sam Fender was the 14th of May 2022. Yeah, I think. And so Dodie was in Paris and Sam Fender was in Berlin. And so I was planning this trip, and it was really important for me. And I was also like doing a whole project for Dodie, but I won't get into that because it's another subject. But basically, this trip was me giving a last chance to life to make me want to live. And I said that if this trip doesn't make me want to live, I'm gonna attempt suicide right after. So when I went home on the 15th, I took a bunch of pills, and I woke up like a few days later, not knowing what had happened, not knowing if they had made me throw up to get out the pills. I still to this day don't know what happened, but I woke up and yeah, I had tried to kill myself, and I had failed for the third time. My mother got really scared, and I was hospitalized again in the clinic, so Saint-Paul, yeah, after my attempt of suicide. So so I was hospitalized like the 20th of May, I think. I attempted suicide on the 15th. And I remember writing all those letters to all of the people I loved. And I still have them in there. I still do have them. And like, I really thought it was the last time I would ever get to write them a letter. And I remember when I went to bed, I listened to Sam Fender's 17 Going Under, like the whole album, and I thought, he's the last voice I am ever going to hear. Yeah. So then I was hospitalized again, against my will, entirely. And it went really badly. I almost didn't eat. I walked a lot. I worked out in my room. I was completely against them trying to help me, that's for sure. I was hospitalized for like a month, I think, and then I got out. I told them, yeah, I'm better, I'm gonna do okay, but then I had to be re-hospitalized like 2 weeks later. And so I went back and I was hospitalized for like 2 months, and it went exactly the same as the first. So the second hospitalization, but the first of this year. I was doing really bad, but at some point I said, okay, I am not wasting my life in this clinic. I am going out and going to do a double degree in math and physics at university in September, and you will not stop me. I am doing this shit. And so I did. I went out, I began the double degree, and until like January, so that was in September 2022, and until like January of 2024, I won't say I was doing better because it's not true. I tried killing myself twice, I don't know, but my mom never told anyone, and she handled it on her own, which I will never understand. I wasn't doing well. Food was extremely difficult. I was working out every day, obsessively. I wasn't doing like the best, but I was doing all right enough to be outside of the clinic and live on my own and do my studies. So that was the most important thing. But I was far from being cured, Physically, I was okay. I had a normal BMI, but mentally it was still very hard. I'm very obsessed with the idea of doing really well in school since I'm small, and so in uni I was clearly over studying, over working, over everything, honestly, and I think that didn't help. Because like right now I just finished my second year and I'm so exhausted right now because I worked so much the whole of last year. So I finished my first year. It wasn't brilliant, but I did okay. I validated my 2 semesters. I was still struggling with food. Like, I remember Christmas being hard. I remember not being able to go out with friends, not really eating cake on my birthday, Like, my relationship with food was very far from being healed, but I was still doing okay enough to be outside in the world and not in a hospital or a clinic. Then summer 2023 came and I got a summer job, and I think that really helped me actually. And then I went on vacation. I remember vacation was hard because I couldn't exercise, so I basically walked a lot. And like, I remember this one time where we go into vacation with 2 other families, and they always do, I'm saying they because you'll understand why, but they always do like a crepe party. Crepe is like pancakes but smaller, and it's less thick, and it's a traditional French dish. So they do this like crepe party, and I could not eat any because my relationship with food was still very wobbly and very not healthy. I wasn't doing great, but I was alright. And then I started my second year of uni, and the second year went by so fast. Like, it's insane. Like, when I think back to it, I can't believe I just finished my second year. It's so weird. I actually did really well in my second year for the first semester, because I think I kind of got used to university, because when I came back for the first year of uni, I hadn't really done any real schooling in like 2 years, even more than that, because there was COVID before that. So like in like 3 years, I had not a proper, I'm here at school every day studying for 7 hours at a table. And I think that in the second year of uni, I was kind of getting used to that more. So that's why I had better results, I think. But at the end, I think that like around October or November, I started really relapsing, and my psychiatrist kept telling me that I had to be either hospitalized, so either be inpatient or at least outpatient, because my relationship with food was getting worse and worse. I was really under eating, I was losing weight, I was exercising every day obsessively, and everything was just going worse. So I said, okay, like, we can try outpatient but not inpatient. Like, I'm not stopping my studies for this. So I validated my first semester with really good grade. Like, I think I got a 25 out of 26 in electromagnetism, which I was not expecting, but I was so glad. It felt like my work was finally paying off, and that was the best feeling in the world. I started outpatient in January, I think, January 2024. And it started becoming really hard because I kept missing classes. And like, when I missed a 3 hours class, it generally meant that I was going to have to do at least like 4 or 5 hours of working to like go back to the level, go back to the point of the lesson they were, because it's generally easier for me to understand things when I have a teacher in front of me that's here to explain, and when I do the work on my own, it generally takes like maybe twice the time. So yeah, it was becoming like really hard for me, and I was getting more and more tired, and then I was eating less and less and exercising more and more, and my mental health was not doing okay. I started self-harming again. It was getting really hard. It was getting really, really hard. So around, I think like April or May of 2024, the people out the outpatient thing started saying I should do an inpatient trip. I don't know how to say that, but I should be an inpatient for at least like 1 or 2 months, because I had been in outpatient thing since January and I was only taking steps back. So it was not great. I was really doing bad, but I did push through finals. This time it was finals, and I actually got really good grades in finals. I even got the best grade of the whole university in quantum mechanics and relativity, so I was so glad. But like, to this day, I wonder how did I survive like having finals, working like 7 hours per day, studying 7 hours per day, and but I know that it's for the better. No, it's for the better. No, it's for the better. That's a song by Phoebe Bridgers, by the way. It's called Waiting Room, and it's so beautiful. As of right now, so physically talking, I'm on the limit of being underweight, but I'm right like at the BMI that's like the lowest normal BMI, if that makes any sense. So if I lose any more weight, it's gonna be dangerous. And I still exercise like Yeah, an hour 20 every day, an hour 20 minutes every day, so that's a lot. But I'm really trying to take some time for myself and do things I enjoy. That means reading. I bought a lot of books. Drawing. I've been drawing so many things. I'll put pictures here, but it's really helping me. And yoga is so good, but generally my legs and arms hurt so much that I can't even do yoga. So and like I just feel that my body is exhausted and that I need to calm down and I need to take care of it. And I don't think I'm going to do that if no one forces me to. So yeah, that's why I'm asking for a hospitalization. And I think I'm going to ask to go back into contract 1. That's why I got a lot of books, because I know I'm going to be reading a lot, I'm going to be drawing a lot, I'm going to, do my nails and all that. So yeah, I'm just getting a lot of manual activities and I hope I'll be okay. So that's the end of my story. It's still ongoing, and to this day, I'm in the middle of a relapse, but I'm seeking help, so that's the most important thing. I hope you like this video. If you watched till the end, you are a literal angel. Thank you so much. You can watch my other videos. I've been trying to post on Shorts a lot lately. And if you want any other eating disorder or mental illness video, just let me know in the comments and I will get to it. Yeah, I think that's about it for me. I already babble a lot. So, bye. I love you. Take care of yourself. You deserve to eat, even if you haven't exercised. Even if you've stayed in your bed for the whole day, you deserve to eat. Bye.
Just fine.